they had a bunch of unwritten rules, really, and I dug all this out from my Closet Stores with Taos book. I really got into that, and I bought a bunch of those estates up there. But I was interested in the Sharp cabin where he lived in Taos, and I knew where it was. And the outhouse he named Little Egypt. And one of my guest houses at my gallery here in town, I call Little Egypt after the Sharp's outhouse up in Taos. And but I had never been in the studio. I had pictures of it because Sharp had painted it and taken photographs. I knocked on a door up there, and there was a guy by the name of Harold Joe Waldron, a pretty good painter. He knew me, but I didn't know him. I introduced myself to him and told him that I was writing a book on Joseph Sharp, and I didn't want to bother him. He was, can I just look around because I have an association with Sharp? And he said, yeah. And I'm looking around. Over there in the corner was a pile of dirt about this high. And they just sweep in dirt. Instead of picking it up, they just sweep it up in the corner. And I looked down, there was a little note there that had Sharp's handwriting on it. Sharp's handwriting on it. We're talking about 1980, and he died in 1953.
Oh my gosh.
So for 25 years, they had not picked up that dirt. They just swept it up in the corner. But this little note, I picked it up and read it. It says, "How foolish of a man to wait when once his chance is nigh. Tomorrow may be too late. Some other man may buy." And I stole that note from Harold Joe Waldron and the 15 other people that had lived in that house before him. I thought it was so funny that handwritten note from Sharp was in that dirt pile.
I'm in Kit Carson Park in Taos, New Mexico. Taos Mountain is on the horizon behind me. This is the first in a series of videos that Forrest and I have collaborated to make regarding his closet stories of Taos, intertwined with my stunning video footage of the Taos area, intertwined with some of my 2014 search locations and some of the solutions that I used to Forrest Fenn's poem. This first video is an introduction to the series. I'm going to start off with Joseph Henry Sharp, who Forrest wrote 2 biographies on. I hope you enjoy my presentation. In Teepee Smoke, Forrest wrote, "They proceeded on to Taos by way of the wagon road that ran along the Rio Grande River. The road was smooth to the mouth of the Rio Grande Canyon, but became increasingly rough as the canyon narrowed to almost vertical walls, barren and rocky except for pinyon trees and chamisa bushes. After a long, grueling climb out of the canyon, they suddenly saw, spread out before them, the immense pale green Taos Plain, deeply slashed by the magnificent gorge of the Rio Grande. Beautiful Taos Mountain loomed in the distance, and behind it, as if packed in by some giant hand, stood snow-covered peaks. It was breathtaking." Forrest said we should read the book to learn where the first clue is. What better chapter than Tea with Olga and Taos Mountain? Forrest talked about how they drank red tea and sipped black tea, and how Olga wanted her ashes spread on top of Taos Mountain. Olga died February 1st, 1979. Forrest doesn't say when his little plane lifted off and headed north, and Olga's white bone fragments flittered through the small window and softly floated down. Is the tea they drank what Forrest meant by warm waters, and those warm waters halted when Olga's ashes floated down to a place where the chamisa bloomed? Is where warm waters halt, metaphorically, Taos Mountain? Forrest said go back and read the book again, but slowly, looking at every little abstract thing that might catch up in your brain, that might be a hint to help you with the clues. In his story about the ball of string, he wrote most pieces were white, but then he says soon he had a multicolored ball. Is that the abstract that we are looking for? Is he directing us to Twining, the old mining town at the base of the Taos ski slopes? And one definition of a clue is a ball of yarn or cord or thread or twine or string. And last but not least, we have twining tea that comes in black, green, and probably red. I now felt like I had a solid WWH and Canyon down. It was time to get in the car and go to the first clue.
It's the time of the season when love runs high. In this time, give it to me easy and let me try with pleasured hands to take you in this time to promised lands, to show you everyone. It's the time of the season for loving. What's your name? Who's your daddy?
This is where I need to interrupt for a moment. This road heads back to El Salto Falls, a potential heavy loads and water high. The series of waterfalls were made famous by Doug Scott as well as D.H. Lawrence. As I made my way past the greenhouse, I noticed this sign along the dirt road. Did it mean the road was closed? I contemplated my destiny. Forrest said he had 109 rules. I only have 6. One of them, if the road ain't gated, it ain't closed. I proceeded onward.
What's your name? What's your name? Who's your daddy? Who's your daddy? He rich. Is he rich like me? Has he taken any time to show you what you need to live? Tell it to me slowly. Tell you why I really want to know.
In early 2014, Forrest was showing me the autographs in his Nikolai Fenn book. He explained how not all movie stars are what you see on the screen. Some of them would not even know who the 19th president is. Holy moly, is that a hint? No, it's a rabbit hole.